she's dead. You know, what happened to her? This is just a beautiful, young, seemingly healthy 28-year-old woman. I was told that she didn't have any health issues, you know, and it was very shocking to hear. And her colleague did not know what happened to her or how she died or why she died, but all she knew is that she...
We finally got the raw tea, sis. The truth about Blue Ivy Carter, the princess of hip-hop, Beyoncé's firstborn, and the name that still makes the blog spin after all these years. But this isn't just about Blue. It's about Cathy White, the woman the streets swear got silenced before she could air out Jay-Z's darkest secrets. For more than a decade, their name's been tangled in whispers, and the story is straight out of a movie. Blue Ivy came into this world in 2012, but even before her first cry, she was already breaking headlines. Beyoncé's pregnancy reveal at the 2011 VMAs? Iconic. She rubbed her baby bump like it was a mic drop. History in the making. But the celebration didn't last long, because instantly, the whispers started. People swore the bump didn't look right, claimed it folded on TV, and the surrogacy rumors took off like wildfire. Some fans still argue to this day if Beyoncé actually carried Blue herself. That's how deep the doubt runs. Now here's where Cathy White's name turns the whole thing sinister. For those who don't know, Cathy was a young publicist. The blogs claim she was romantically tied to Jay-Z on the low. The word on the block? She had receipts, not just about him cheating, but secrets that could have rattled the whole Carter empire. And just when chatter about her speaking out started bubbling, boom! Cathy White suddenly passed in 2011 from what doctors called an aneurysm at just 28 years old. The timing was way too perfect, way too eerie. One moment Beyoncé is glowing with a baby bump. The next, the one woman allegedly tied to Jay's mess is gone forever. That's when conspiracy culture lost its mind. Some swore Cathy was silenced, others said her death was a warning. And by the time Blue Ivy was born months later, folks were already connecting dots. The theory? Cathy's death and Blue's birth weren't just coincidences. They were two halves of the same mystery. But while the internet cooked up conspiracies, the Carters stuck to their script. For them, Blue was a blessing, period. Days after her birth, Jay-Z dropped the song Glory, where he rapped about a miscarriage they suffered before Blue, painting the picture of a miracle baby and a family healed by love. But the blogs weren't letting go. Every glossy photo of Beyoncé cradling Blue, every picture-perfect moment the Carters shared, people were in the comments talking about Cathy White, timing, and hidden truths. And now, years later, with Blue Ivy growing into her own star power, Cathy's name still haunts the Carter fairy tale like a ghost nobody can ignore. Coincidence? Or cover-up? Let's be real. Nobody spins a story cleaner than Beyoncé and Jay-Z. They built their empire on two things: talent and image control. When Blue was born, they weren't just celebrating a child. They were allegedly locking in a narrative. The perfect family, the royal couple of Black excellence, the untouchable dynasty. Every magazine cover, every concert moment, every single glimpse of Blue Ivy was curated to perfection. No messy leaks, no random paparazzi slip-ups, no drama, just royalty on display. But while the official story was polished to sparkle, the whispers in the streets refused to die. That Australian interview where Beyoncé's belly seemed to fold in as she sat down, fans still point to that clip, swearing the pregnancy was staged, the VMA's reveal was just a distraction, and somebody else carried Blue Ivy behind the scenes. To the public, the Carters sold miracle motherhood. But behind closed doors, the whispers grew louder. Was it all a fairy tale carefully spun to protect their empire? The so-called official story was all polished press releases and sympathy headlines, but the unofficial story? Straight smoke and mirrors. On paper, Cathy White's passing was chalked up to a tragic aneurysm. A young publicist gone too soon, nothing to see here. But the blogs were telling a whole different tale. They painted Cathy as the alleged other woman with dangerous receipts, the one ready to spill secrets that could have cracked Jay-Z's reputation wide open. And then, just like a movie plot twist, her death lined up perfectly with Beyoncé's pregnancy announcement. The timing had people's jaws on the floor. While mainstream outlets quietly filed it under tragedy, the online conspiracy machine went full throttle. To fans on the web, this wasn't just an aneurysm. This was erasure. That's been the split for over a decade now. On one side, the Carters' spotless royal image with Blue Ivy as the chosen heir. On the other, the internet's underground theory boards, keeping Cathy White's name alive like an urban legend. Even today, you can see it playing out in real time. Every time Blue Ivy takes home an award or steals the spotlight with flawless choreography on Beyoncé's Renaissance tour, the official narrative gets reinforced. Look at this talented child destined for greatness. But scroll down to the comments and there's always someone dredging up Cathy's name, tying her ghost back into the story. That's the thing about spin, sis. The Carters can lock their image down like Fort Knox, but the internet's memory, it doesn't fade. They buried Cathy White in silence, but in doing so, they made sure her ghost would always haunt the Blue Ivy story. And let's keep it real. People still connect Blue Ivy and Cathy White all these years later because Jay-Z's history with women has never been squeaky clean. Before he became half of the Carters, Jay had a long track record of cheating rumors, industry flings, and whispers about women who never made the official narrative. Cathy White's name just keeps floating back to the top of that list, like a cork in water. So who was she really? Cathy White was no random fan. She was a young, ambitious publicist making moves in the New York entertainment scene. The blog swore she was allegedly Jay-Z's longtime side piece, the woman he'd slip away to, even as he built his empire with Beyoncé. And according to gossip pages, Cathy wasn't just a fling. She allegedly had insight into Jay's lifestyle, his moves, and even those skeletons he'd rather leave locked away. Here's where it gets even messier. In 2011, reports started circulating that Cathy was planning to speak out. Some said she was tired of living in the shadows. Others claimed she was gearing up to write a tell-all that would name names, drop dates, and pull back the curtain on the Carter Kingdom. And then, just like that, she was gone. Dead at 28. No foul play ruled, no deep investigation, just a tragic sudden death. The timing? Way too on the nose. Cathy dies in August 2011.
Number 1, none of Cathy White's family knew that she was pregnant. 2, none of the doctors, not even the morgue that she was brought into, did like a cavity search to see. Even when they find out people are pregnant when they're hurt, it's like, oh, it's times 2 because the person you was pregnant. But you would have seen that there was a removal of a body, delivery of a baby. None of her friends, no one questioned anything at all about what happened to her baby. We had a funeral for her and no baby. I really am starting to think all this is a bunch of hocus pocus.
Weeks later, Beyoncé takes the VMA stage, rubbing her belly and announcing she's pregnant with Blue Ivy. To conspiracy culture, that wasn't coincidence. That was choreography. The other woman exits, the chosen heir enters, and the Carter image stays protected. And don't forget, Beyoncé's pregnancy was under a microscope from day one. People swore the bump folded, swore she wore prosthetics, swore a surrogate carried Blue Ivy. Beyoncé clapped back with documentaries and interviews, but the rumors never fully died, and Cathy's ghost only made them louder. Jay-Z's own music didn't help either. In later years, he openly admitted to cheating, and his 444 album was basically a confession of infidelity. Fans look back now and say, see, he told on himself. Which only makes Cathy White's story feel more believable. Line it all up. Jay-Z's history with women, Cathy's alleged affair, her sudden death, Beyoncé's rocky pregnancy narrative. And it's no wonder the whispers still haven't stopped. By the time Blue Ivy was born, the Carter Empire looked untouchable. But behind the glam, the whispers only got darker. The streets weren't just questioning Beyoncé's pregnancy anymore. They were dragging Cathy White's ghost into every conversation, making it impossible for the Carters to fully escape the rumors. And honestly, that shadow never really went away. Fast forward a decade, and Blue Ivy is now a star in her own right. From shutting down the Renaissance tour with choreography sharper than pros twice her age to scooping up awards before even hitting adulthood, she's already carrying the Carter legacy on her back. The official spin is crystal clear. Blue Ivy is the heir, the golden child of music royalty, proof that the empire not only survived but is thriving. But scroll down on any viral Blue Ivy clip and you'll see the pattern. Somebody always sneaks Cathy White's name into the comments. They'll say, funny how Cathy died right before Blue was born. Or, y'all forgot about Cathy White. It's like no matter how many milestones Blue hits, the whispers refuse to die. And that's what drives the conspiracy crowd wild. The idea that no matter how carefully the Carters polish their image, the internet will forever drag the ghost of Cathy White right back into frame. And let's not forget, Jay-Z himself poured fuel on the fire when he dropped 444. The whole album was basically a therapy session about his infidelity. He admitted to stepping out, breaking Beyoncé's trust, and trying to heal the damage. To most, that was raw honesty. But to conspiracy believers, it was confirmation that Cathy's alleged affair wasn't just gossip. It was part of a bigger pattern. They point at the lyrics like evidence, saying, "See, he's been guilty all along." That's why the Cathy White story still won't stay buried. Because it's not just about one woman, it's about a timeline that feels too choreographed, too perfectly aligned with the Carter family narrative. Cathy dies in August 2011. Beyoncé announces her pregnancy weeks later. By January 2012, Blue Ivy is born, and the Carter image looks stronger than ever. To the blogs, that's not fate. That's a chessboard being played at the highest level. And here's the kicker. Beyoncé never really addressed the surrogacy rumors directly. Sure, she showed footage of her pregnancy in documentaries, shared intimate family clips, and carried on like the proud mother she is. But the internet, it never bought it 100%. That infamous Australian TV interview, where her belly seemed to fold as she sat down, is still circulating today. Slowed down, zoomed in, and dissected frame by frame like it's the Zapruder film. Every time new footage of Blue Ivy surfaces, fans split into two camps. Half say, this is just a talented kid with superstar parents, stop dragging conspiracies into it. While the other half insists, nah, this story's way deeper. Cathy White's ghost is still in the room. That clash is exactly what keeps the whispers alive year after year. At the end of the day, the Carters built their dynasty on discipline, secrecy, and total image control. But no matter how perfect the narrative looks on the surface, the internet keeps pulling threads. And every thread leads back to the same place. Cathy White, gone too soon, and Blue Ivy, born right after. Coincidence or cover-up? That's the question nobody can stop asking. The dots practically connect themselves for conspiracy theorists. Blue Ivy wasn't just born into fame. She was born into a story dripping with secrets, scandals, and the ghost of a woman whose name was supposed to vanish but never did. That's why Cathy White still lingers in the whispers every time Blue Ivy shines. But let's zoom out for a second, because the Carters ain't the only power players whose family legacy got tangled in hidden kids, mistresses, and suspicious timing. Hollywood has been recycling this scandal script for decades, and every time the pattern feels a little too familiar. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. For years, he was the poster boy of a perfect family with Maria Shriver. Then boom, the world finds out he had a secret child with the housekeeper, and that boy had been growing up right under everyone's noses. Overnight, the carefully crafted power couple image crumbled into a hidden family empire headline. Or take Drake. He tried to keep Sophie Brousseau and their son Adonis a secret until Pusha T aired him out with that brutal diss track. Suddenly, the world knew, and Drake had to scramble to flip the narrative from embarrassment to Dad of the Year. Sound familiar? A man hiding skeletons until the pressure forced the truth. Even Steve Jobs, the billionaire genius behind Apple, the man the world worshipped, denied his daughter Lisa for years, even after DNA proved it. He built an empire while pretending she didn't exist. That's the thing about power. It convinces people they can bury the truth, but secrets have a way of clawing back to the surface. And that's why Cathy White hits so different. Unlike Arnold's son, Drake's son, or Steve Jobs' daughter, Cathy didn't get the chance to speak her piece. She didn't get to pull receipts, sit down for an interview, or drop a tell-all book. She was gone at 28. Right when the whispers claimed she was finally ready to talk. That's what makes her name stick, because it's not just scandal, it's silence. But let's flip this whole thing on its head for a second. Maybe Cathy's death really was just a medical tragedy. Aneurysms don't discriminate. They strike suddenly, brutally, and often without warning. Maybe she wasn't silenced, maybe she was just unlucky, and maybe Beyoncé really did carry Blue Ivy herself, bump and all. Maybe the conspiracy isn't proof of a cover-up, but proof that fans simply don't trust perfection, because the Carters guard their lives so tightly that people start filling in the blanks with their own wild scripts. Still, here's the real kicker. Perception is everything. Once the public smells even a hint of mystery, the truth doesn't matter anymore. Arnold will always be tied to the housekeeper. Drake will always be clowned for hiding his son. And the Carters. No matter what the autopsy said, no matter what baby photos show, Cathy White's ghost will always hover over Blue Ivy's name. And that, my friends, is how a fairy tale turns into folklore. A story the public refuses to let die. If you want more deep dives into the scandals Hollywood doesn't want you to talk about, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the next secret might just be bigger than this one.